time to go over some of the finer details.
Prisoners of the Ghostland was released on January 31st, 2021 at the Sundance Film Festival. But then I remember when Pig came out, I was like, okay, Prisoners of the Ghostland is still coming out this year at some point, right? Because it was at Sundance. It's going to come out this year. But they sat on it until Pig started getting really good press. And then suddenly Prisoners of the Ghostland got a release date. And I have to assume that this was sitting on a shelf. Potentially because of some things going on with Science Ono, which we'll get to in a second. But sat on the shelf until September 17th, 2021, when it was released wide to streaming. I don't know if it got a theatrical release at all.
I thought it did, but it was like a week.
Yeah.
It felt like it came out in theaters, but maybe that's just because we were paying attention to it.
Yeah, probably.
So.
We're the only ones. Everybody else is like, what? No. I could not find a budget anywhere for this film. I looked everywhere, and some things came up and said like this $75 movie, which was like a review of it. But box office, it made $63,009. Again, you know, we've had this debate many times on these unrated films, especially the ones released during the pandemic, of like, was it actually released to, you know, an actual theatrical chain of some sort, maybe just some indie theaters? Did it come out in one theater in like New York or LA or both or whatever?
Right.
Or is this a streaming number, or, you know, some sort of reflection of rentals? I rented it the day it came out. And so I would like to say I contributed $5 to that $63,000.
I don't think streaming numbers are reported really though. Like that's as much because they're obfuscated. You know, they don't have to report them. I don't know why box office numbers get reported the way they do. Maybe it's because they're publicly traded companies, or I don't know.
That's what I assumed, and that's why I was like, budget. Why isn't it public? You know, I think they have to get certain permits in order to make these films. So I think it has to be public in certain respects. But we've run into this like 3 different times with like Trapped in Paradise. We didn't get a budget. I don't think there was a budget on Pig, and there was no budget on Prisoners of the Ghostland.
Maybe it's just nobody cared to look it up. So it's been reported somewhere, but no one bothered.
The studio just buried it.
Yeah, to publish it somewhere.
If you break down the film, there's basically 2 sets. There's like the Samurai Town street, and then there's the Ghostland, which is like it's like a old concrete structure of some sort.
Yeah,
and they made a big clock. Yeah, lots of fog.
Yeah.
I mean,
Flavor Flav's clock.
I was actually I'm disappointed that we couldn't find it because I wanted to know, because the production value seemed really good. Like for what they did with whatever budget they had, it looked very nice.
Yeah.
And like they made the most of whatever low budget they had. Like everybody had a unique costume and shot very well, and lighting was done really well. So, you know, I think it's a good it's how a low budget movie should look. You know.
Yeah. This was directed by Science Ono, who is best known for the film Love Exposure from 2008, and has been called the most subversive filmmaker working in Japanese cinema today. He has directed over 50 projects, but this is the first time he's ever taken a stab at an English-speaking film, which is kind of similar to John Woo, where it's like he hadn't... He'd done mostly Chinese cinema films, and then you moved over to, I think the first one was Hard Target, that Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, and he got better, and the things were a little more coherent going forward. But I feel like there's a disconnect sometimes when you don't speak perfect English and you get your actors to say gibberish, and they say it very dramatically, and it's like, that's not a sentence. What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
Face off.
In this is why I'm saying that it sat on the shelf for a while. In April of 2022, several sexual misconduct allegations from actresses who said they were pressured into sex in exchange for roles came out against Science Ono. Several now. It started shortly after this film was finished. and it has continued, and he hasn't made a film since Prisoners of Ghostland. It was just out last year, but he had probably shot it in 2020 or 2019, and then it came out in 2021. So he hasn't worked since 2019, potentially.
Dang.
Yeah. So there's that.
Yeah.
Which we've run into this now. This is the same company that released Color Out of Space.
Yeah.
And we had that
shit.
issue with the director of Color Out of Space where he had some sexual misconduct come out about him right after it premiered, pretty much. Kind of ruined his career, his comeback. This was written by Aaron Hendry, who is an actor. And this is the only writing credit to his name. So I don't know what his involvement was. He was in Beer Fest and the Teen Wolf TV show.
Awesome.
Was also in Inhumans, that Marvel series that didn't seem to get a lot of love. And then...
That's where he learned how to write.
God.
And then Riza Sixo Safai.
RZA?
There's gonna be some names in here that are not gonna come out right. Nothing on IMDb credits that I recognize except did one episode of The Mentalist. I have heard of that. Never seen an episode, but I've heard of it. So yeah, powerhouse.
Yeah. Okay.
Guy from Beer Fest and
I don't
who
feel
wrote
so
an
bad,
episode of The Mentalist.
I don't feel so bad about the tear into this thing because I assumed it was written by like a Japanese guy.
I do
Because
think
of
that
how-
Science
how
Sono had a lot to do with it.
because of how heavily it talks about I guess tries to wrap up an allegory of nuclear war
Yes,
and
yeah.
Holocaust and stuff like that. I assumed it
Hiroshima.
was from a Japanese perspective.
Well, it
but,
is Riza Sixo Safai, I believe, is Japanese.
Oh, okay. Co-wrote.
Co-wrote with the guy from Beer Fest and Teen Wolf.
Team Wolf.
I kind of wonder if maybe Science Sono actually wrote the story, and then these two came in and kind of fleshed it out, and then he
actual screenplay.
obviously made changes on set.
Yeah.
What? No.
This was shot by Sohei Tanakawa, who has pretty much only worked on Japanese films, so I can't really speak to them. So I can't really say. It was beautifully shot, though.
Yeah, I'd say they're pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was shot really well.
I would say for the limitations of this film, because like we said, it's obviously like two sets. Beautifully done.
Yeah.
The lighting was a little heavy-handed at times, but I did feel like it was a very pretty film and did the best with what they had. And then edited by Taylor Levi.
Probably
Levy. So Taylor Levy has mostly edited shorts and hasn't actually worked on a feature film up until this point. Which,
Hey, it's like this movie. Just a whole bunch of shorts.
this film just does. It kind of has that same ring of Grand Isle, where it's like feels like it was made by a lot of like film students and people who are kind of starting out.
We don't cotton the big city cinema out here.
Out in the Ghostland. Music was by Joseph Trapanese. Not a joke, but Joseph, I think it's Trapanese because
Probably.
he looks very like, I don't know, French maybe, but he actually has an amazing track record of Tron Legacy. He worked with Daft Punk on putting that score together, which is one of the greatest film scores I think I've ever heard. And then Oblivion, which I love the music from that film.
I love that game.
That was a Tom Cruise film that didn't suck. I still think it might have bombed, but I don't know for sure.
It did. It was a very underrated film.
I actually really like that film.
Yeah, I thought it was really good too.
And then he did the music for Straight Outta Compton that wasn't NWA. I don't even remember music being in that film besides
Well, then he maybe did a good job.
Yeah,
to fade it into the
yeah.
background and accented the movie.
Yeah.
I liked the music in this movie a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of had
that's just good.
I think I call it out in the breakdown, but it kind of had a Ennio Morricone vibe at times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought he did a great job, and I think he was told specifically, like, yeah, I want it to sound like, a spaghetti western of some sort.
Right.
He also did Transformers 4. So that guy from, what was it, Journey or Yes, the guy from Yes, who had done the first 3 Transformers movies that we talked about. I guess he was fired, and they went in a different direction. Got Mark Wahlberg and what?
Got this guy.
And then there's this film that I wanted to call out, but it was in his credits. It's called Arctic with Mads Mikkelsen, which I actually just kind of stumbled upon. I think it was on Prime or something like that, and I watched it, and it's an amazing movie that I just feel like has fallen completely under the radar. It's like if it reminds me of All Is Lost. I don't know if you guys saw that Robert Redford movie where he's on a boat and it's him by himself the whole film.
Yeah, I never saw it, but I do remember it having a ton of buzz.
It was
Oscar buzz.
amazing, an amazing performance. Like, he doesn't speak for almost the entire movie. Robert Redford in this Arctic film. I mean, just imagine carrying a movie for 2 hours without speaking once. It's amazing.
That's pretty crazy.
But Arctic is kind of similar where
Cage
Mads
could do
Mikkelsen.
Yeah, Nicolas Cage did it. Willy's
Willy's
Wonderland.
Wonderland.
Yeah, but see, actually, other characters spoke in that film. No one speaks in.
Oh, well,
All
I
Is
still
Lost.
say Nicolas Cage could do it.
I think he could. Yeah,
Let's write that. He's in a boat. Done.
he's in a boat.
Yeah, I don't know how
That's
to
the
write
whole
dialogue, so we'll just make a movie that doesn't have dialogue.
He's in a boat. Doesn't speak Finnish.
Anyways, it's a great movie, but it's kind of similar in vibe where it's just him trying to survive the whole movie, and things just get incrementally worse, scene by scene by scene, and basically, towards the end, you're like, I was just guided. We're just gonna watch this dude freeze to death in the Arctic. But Mads Mikkelsen, credible in that film. Rotten Tomatoes. This is fucking shocking. 62%. 62% of the people who watched this absolute pile of shit thought,
Hey, spoilers.
amazing. This is great.
Save that for
I
our
had a
review
feeling
section.
it was going to be
No.
divisive.
156 reviews.
Yeah.
Wow. 62% of them gave a 6 or higher, right? In order for it to be,
Do you think that's sarcastic reviews, or do you think this is legit people?
there are a lot
think
of, I
it's-
read some reviews that were like, yeah, this is very artistic. And
Yeah.
that's the thing I hate about it. That's like, yes, it is artistic, but it makes no sense. Like,
Yeah.
there are a lot of like allegories and metaphors and all sorts of like things that
lot.
we will probably glance over throughout this film because we're too busy just trying to dissect the absolute fucking madness that's happening in every second of it. But like, if you take away the fact that it doesn't make any sense, sure, it's a beautiful art piece. Gotcha. And I'm sure, if you know about like Japanese mythology and metaphors, and potentially had grown up post World War II and the nuclear era in Japan, yeah, maybe it would have made a lot more sense. And maybe to Japanese audiences, this is a masterpiece. I don't know. It reminds me of an anime, though, so I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like the closest thing to live action anime I've ever seen in my life.
I would
Just
say
nonsensical.
Snowpiercer is the closest to a live action anime that I've ever seen. And
Well,
I
I've never seen
hated that
'cause
movie
it sounds
too.
Awful. Yeah, see.
But everybody
You
else,
can't say that online.
everybody else that I've ever talked to about it has loved that movie, and
You can't say you hate Snowpiercer.
fuck Snowpiercer. I hate that movie.
Right in its snow piercing hole.
Snowpiercer.
I don't know. My problem is like I agree with you. Like I think there's probably a lot of symbolism here and some commentary on, like you said, living in a post-nuclear wasteland or country. But it's just so, the story is just so all over the place and
incoherent.
nonsensical. Yeah, that
Yeah.
it takes away from that.
Pick
you
something.
can-
Pick
Yeah.
something to
We need
to make
something
an
to
allegory
latch
around.
onto, and we
Yeah.
have nothing in this film. Nick Cage is the closest thing we have to latch onto, and even he is just
Yeah.
like, okay, well, that was a weird choice in
Yeah.
every
He's
other
He's a
scene.
character that knows that he's in a movie.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
5.8 out of 10 on 156 reviews, which is incredible to me. Incredible.
I figured it was going to be somewhere around the 5 out of 10 because like we said, it's shot really well. It's beautiful. It's very artistic. The acting's all right, I think, in a lot of it. The music's great. The set design's awesome. The costumes are great. Like presentation wise, it's fantastic style, but there's like not a lot of substance. Or if there is substance, it's so obfuscated behind all of the shit that's going on screen and with the characters and stuff that you can't easily pull it out and you know understand what it's trying to tell you. But I can see people just ignoring that and just enjoying the experience of watching the movie. It's like, you know, or if they do understand all of the whatever the fuck is trying to be said, you know, that they would like the movie. So I figured it would be fairly divisive of a score. It's kind of hard to categorize it.
It is 100%. Audience score 20% though. So, you know.
Yeah. I get that.
Critics versus audience.
Right.
Which, you know.
Again, it's that taking that
fans
critical
versus
eye
critics.
to it. You know, it's like critics have to usually try to account for like the whole picture as a whole. So it's like, the cinematography was great. Choreography was pretty good for fights and stuff. You know, it's a spectacle in a lot of ways. So sure, bump up the score a little bit. But most audiences are just going to go, I don't know. You know, I would assume like, I don't know what the, it's a bit like us. Like, what the fuck is this movie? Like, I don't understand what the hell we're trying to be told here, you know? It's just a boring, painful experience.
Convoluted, incoherent gobbledygook. Metacritic was 53%, which is kind of similar to the Rotten Tomatoes score, 5.8. So, you know, again, critics liked it. IMDb is a 4.2, which feels more, you know, I always say IMDb that's real people. So feels more accurate to me. And of course, A+ at Cinema Score. No, they didn't get a Cinema Score. No fucking way they got a Cinema Score for this. A+. A+.